morning, everyone. Kia ora, apa kabar? Assalamualaikum. Thank you all for having me here today and dragging yourselves out of bed this early. I'm usually just finishing up breastfeeding Keela, my 7-month-old daughter, who is perched precariously in her daddy's arms in the back there, wondering why we're skipping her morning nap. So suspicious. My older daughter here, Zia, is here as well. She's 11. She has a teacher's day off. So she's here because of that, and it's weird because I thought teacher's day offs were for weekends and school holidays, but here we are. My amazing husband, Bobby, is here as well. He is my biggest supporter, and otherwise Keela would have had to come on stage with me today. Any parents in the house today? Yes, you know, the struggle is real. I'm not going to use the mic, so if you can't hear me, maybe move around to the front. But I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name is Adriana. I'm a mother. I'm an immigrant. I am a modern Muslim woman, and I am a business owner. So Anjana, thank you so much for the introduction. I co-own 2 Indonesian restaurants, Bali Nights and Java, with my husband and 2 of our business partners. It took me a while to confidently call myself a businesswoman. I always thought people who called themselves entrepreneurs had to know what they were doing, where they were going, and how to do it well. I don't think I didn't. I still don't, and I don't think I ever will. I met my business partners, Zemi and Yanti. Yanti is right here as well in the audience, in 2019. They had just moved to New Zealand only 2 years ago from Indonesia, and they'd opened a cafe in Ponsonby. I thought they were insane. They were brave, but they were absolutely insane. I could never have done what they did. I had to go through a 15-year-long journey of working at corporates and for other people before finally being brave enough to take the plunge into working for myself. So the theme today is acceptance. I'm going to touch on it really loosely, which Creative Mornings and Anjana might not like because I'm not nailing my brief. But I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey and how I ended up where I am, introducing my niche culture through food, and finally accepting my own authentic self. So let me start at the beginning. I was born in Indonesia in 1983. If you're all doing maths really quickly, that means I am 40 this year. Yes, I've accepted that. Indonesia in the 80s was going through a major westernization. So we had our first KFC open up across the road, and I couldn't live with my Game Boy. TV shows like MacGyver and Knight Rider started airing on our one TV channel, usually at about 4 p.m. after school. These shows are probably why I have a weird accent. Not exactly American, not exactly Kiwi, and who knows what an Indonesian accent sounds like, am I right? So even though we had these influxes of American trends coming through, Indonesia was still super traditional. We were a nation that was heavily immersed in our culture, and we were proud of it. We're made up of 27 different provinces, all made up of different tribes with our own dialects, cuisines, and tribal traditions. All these different colors are what are all the different ethnic groups that you would find in Indonesia. So if you picked someone from this end, they would look completely different and sound completely different from someone from the other end. That was how diverse we were. My family is Javanese, the largest ethnic group in Indonesia. We follow traditions from our ancestors to this day. This is my sister and I at our aunt's wedding. Basically what flower girls would look like in Indonesia in the 90s, sans the emo eyeliner. This was my wedding in 2010, in full Javanese garb, hair and makeup that took 4 hours to put on. I absolutely loved it. I loved the complexity of our culture and the absolute beauty and grace of it. Indonesia is also a country with the largest Muslim population in the world. Any Muslims in here with us today? There's not a lot of Muslims out in the wild. There's about 2 billion of us in the world right now. So that's literally 1 every 4 people in the world are Muslim. But we make up only 1.3% of the total population in New Zealand. In Indonesia, however, there are roughly 88% of us are Muslim. I was brought up as a Muslim. where we followed the faith, but we were also realistic about how the world was changing, and so we were taught to adapt while still respecting our religion's ideology. In 2001, I left Indonesia to move to New Zealand for university. I was 18 and by myself for the first time, and I needed to adapt and assimilate to this foreign world. I did a Bachelor of Commerce at the University of Auckland, initially studying accounting like the good Asian kid I was, but miserably failing my second year until I decided to switch gears into marketing, which I loved. In 2006, I graduated and went looking for my first job. I wanted a creative job. I wanted the drama and the action. What I got was a business analyst job at a photocopier company, completely the opposite of creative. I stayed at Fuji Xerox for 7 years, which was probably the length of time it took me to assimilate and acclimatize fully. I learned a lot of Excel, and I traveled the country auditing old printers and fax machines. It was fun when I made it fun. In 2011, I gave birth to Zia, my oldest daughter, first of her name, took a whole year off maternity leave, and came back part-time. So this proved a little bit too hard for Fuji Xerox. They didn't like me being a mother, and I wasn't accepted in this testosterone-fueled industry, and I was constantly facing judgment. At this point, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice to work for myself and have the freedom to look after my baby without constantly being judged? But now I wasn't crazy, so I looked for another job. This time I was adamant I wanted a marketing job, and I knew after 7 years of not doing a marketing job, I had to start from zero. So in 2013, I got a job at Sony Electronics as a marketing assistant, which then progressed to being an assistant product manager. So working for a Japanese company had its own challenges. I was staying in the office till midnight, crunching numbers for my Japanese bosses, and then flying out the next morning to Tokyo for budget meetings. I was burnt out, but I was loving it. After 3 years of busting ass, I applied for a promotion and I got rejected. My Japanese boss thought that as a woman, I was too emotional for the job. I wasn't emotional. I just cared a lot. I thought again to myself, if I had my own business, I probably wouldn't have to deal with this. I'd be my own boss lady and I could be as emo as I wanted to. But no, I'm not crazy yet. So I went looking for another job. After doing marketing for Sony, I wanted to see if I could do a 180 and do a sales job instead. In 2016, I got a job at Nike as a strategic sales manager. This was probably the point where I realized I was a generalist, and I was pretty good at being kind of good at everything. Not a specialist where you're super good at one thing, but I was okay on a lot of things. I looked after Nike's largest distribution channel in New Zealand, and I learned to sell in a bunch of stuff, and I learned to beg the customer to buy more stuff when we didn't make target. Nike was also super athletic, whereas I was there for the streetwear. So this is a campaign for one of our running shoes. I don't run, let alone forever. I only stayed for a year because I realized sales wasn't my thing either. I liked being behind the scenes. I liked launching products. I liked creating collateral. I liked empowering people and crunching numbers. So I said to myself again, imagine owning a business and being able to do all of the above. What creative freedom would that be? After Nike, I switched industries again. I got a job as a product marketing manager at Vend, one of New Zealand's first tech startups. This was probably the turning point of my career, only after 13 years in the workforce. I launched high visibility, large scale global products in Canada, the UK, and the US, all from the comfort of little old New Zealand. This role had me buzzing every day. I loved every moment. I felt respected. I felt like my creativity was nurtured. And the culture there was amazing. It was super inclusive to moms, to people of color, to people from a variety of different backgrounds. We celebrated different cultures and religions, and it made me miss being completely surrounded by my own. I think at this point, I knew I wanted to do something that had to do with my culture or what I believed in. I needed a greater purpose, but I just haven't had the opportunity yet. I was always a foodie. I loved eating out. I missed eating Indonesian food. And there weren't a lot of us here opening Indonesian restaurants, if any. We had a couple of food court stalls and, you know, the random Indonesian auntie who did like their house-based catering services. But no one was really out there elevating Indonesian food to the potential that it could be. This was Food Alley, if you guys remember that epic classic institution at all. The best and only Indonesian food outlet in Auckland, and we went there probably twice a week when I was in university. So I was jealous about how other cultures were accepted in Auckland. For example, there are around 500 Japanese restaurants and about 6,000 Japanese natives, and only 4 Indonesian restaurants and about 4,000 Indonesian natives in Auckland. That meant there was 1 restaurant for every 12 people, Japanese people, and there was only 1 for every 1,000 of us. This was pretty amazing for the Japanese, but pretty sad for Indonesians. So around this time was when we met Zemi and Yanti. They had opened their small cafe, Java, and again, I thought they were insane. They were awesome, but crazy insane. They started selling classic Western breakfast foods and coffees during the weekday. The only Indonesian food they were selling at that time was on the weekends as specials. A year after Java opened, it was doing okay. The competition was heavy for breakfast type foods in the Ponsonby Graylin area. Bobby, my husband, was working at a tech startup called Jasper at the time, and as the head of product design, and I was senior product marketing manager at Vend. Both of us are product people. We loved launching new products. We loved working out the nitty-gritty of product market fit and making sure it was adopted by our target market. Us joining them was kind of accidental. Bobby wanted a side project. He wanted to rebrand Java, completely overhaul the menu, and focus on a full Indonesian experience, nothing that Auckland had ever seen before. I was skeptical at first, but I was intrigued. I saw that Java's Indonesian specials pulled in a crowd that I had never seen before. Suddenly, Indonesians in Auckland had a space to mingle and network, and it felt like home away from home. So we joined them in 2019, while both still working our full-time jobs. We got rid of the egg bennies, the avocado on toasts, and the Reubens, and we replaced them with a full Indonesian menu all day, every day. Bobby gave Java a fun new brand. It was hip and vibrant, while still building on our traditional roots. After a year on this new menu, we saw that the demographic had shifted a little bit, where we were actually pulling in non-Indonesians in. Seeing Kiwis enjoy our food was epic. Most of them had never had Indonesian food before. Some of them had been to Bali, but didn't know that Bali was part of Indonesia. Spoiler alert, it is. We could see that Auckland was starting to accept this new culture, and we were ready for it. We started getting noticed, and one day Metro Magazine came in and told us that we were part of their annual Metro Cheap Eats list. This was pretty huge for us, for a lesser-known cuisine to suddenly be featured in a major publication. At the stage, I was fully into it. I found my calling. No one was doing Indonesian food like we were. Java was our playground, and I have found my purpose. I had this fiery urge to just really bring Indonesia to Auckland in a big way. After living all these years in New Zealand, I was feeling removed from my culture. I wanted to find a way to immerse myself back in it. I wanted to give back to my community. I wanted to create a home for my people away from home. I wanted to provide a launch pad for Indonesian students looking for part-time jobs, a kitchen for Indonesian chefs to recreate the menus, the recipes that were handed down to them from ancestors. And I guess I wanted to create a community hub for Indonesians in New Zealand to know that when they step into my restaurant, they will be greeted by familiar faces, familiar smells, and so we decided to open up a new restaurant. After 15 years of collecting all these random skills at all these random places and being exposed to different markets, different industries, products, and teams, I was finally confident. I now know exactly what my strengths are. I was good at moving people in the same direction towards a mutual goal. So I resigned from my job to focus on launching this full-time. In building our new brand, I knew Bali was already a strong brand. So I wanted to evoke that feeling of complete immersion into a new culture. The romance of enjoying like a warm, muggy sunset stroll down the beach, stopping every few minutes to buy a little trinket or try out like a street side delicacy. We wanted the name to have this laid back, yet vibrant energy, kind of loose and kind of impulsive. So when you go away on a holiday, your days are spent like, going to tourist attractions and checking out landmarks. But your nights, however, they are when the locals come out to play. It's sexier, and it's a more vibrant world where you immerse yourself in what the locals do and eat and play. So Bali Nights was born. So we knew we wanted to base ourselves in one of Auckland's main food districts, either Ponsonby or K Road or the CBD. We wanted to go big, or we wanted to go or go home. All four of partners were Muslim, so we didn't want to be selling alcohol because of our beliefs. No other Indonesian or Muslim-owned restaurant had done this because, to be honest, it's scary as hell. Who did we think we were? Like, no one knew what our food looked or tasted like. People thought satay is peanut sauce, while it actually means the skewers itself. So today you learned. And to open up in a major food district without selling alcohol was absolutely crazy. We were so confident that we could showcase our food and culture in a way that would entice people to learn more about us, open up their taste buds, and all without selling alcohol. But we knew how much Aucklanders love to drink, and we found a middle ground in BYO. Not everyone agreed, though. We were rejected from a space in a very high traffic complex in Ponsonby, saying they don't believe that our business will be successful without selling alcohol. To us, this was kind of like saying no Muslim-owned restaurant will ever be successful in Ponsonby, or any high visibility food districts in Auckland for that matter. We were pigeonholed because they thought there was no way that Muslims could be fun. We decided to open across the road from them to prove them wrong. So Bali Nights opened in April 2021, right in the middle of the pandemic, no less. I was wearing many hats, if not all of them. I took on the role of what will be called the CEO in a corporate company, basically the one person responsible for when the shit hits the fan. I was also suddenly the legal counsel, marketer, financial controller, human resource trainer, public relations, painter, toilet fixer, cleaner, and my most favorite, quality control. We began to gain traction, getting noticed, putting Indonesian food on the map. All the media outlets wanted to cover us. We were right there in Ponsonby, and people were curious. Bali was this exotic tropical paradise, and they'd never seen Bali in Auckland before, but they were ready for it. We thought our branding and positioning really carefully. We wanted it to be fun, vibrant, appealing to the tough Kiwi crowd, but still true to our roots. As Viva said here, we were an atypical style of restaurant to grace the neighborhood. We weren't fancy or stuck up. We were exactly how we would be in Bali. A little bit slapdash, a lot of character, and we didn't want it any other way. We sourced our furniture straight from the makers in the villages of Bali. We shipped over a container full of chairs, lampshades, rattan plates, and decorations. We wanted it to be as authentic as possible. We wanted our food to also be as authentic as possible, as authentic as it could be this far away from home. Our chili was searingly hot, and we didn't adapt it to the Western palate. All our staff were Indonesian, bringing with them Indonesian hospitality at its finest. We were on a mission to showcase Indonesia to New Zealand in the realest, most authentic way. We sold out our seating every weekend and most nights. The atmosphere was buzzy, it was noisy, the energy was electric. It was Bali right here in Ponsonby, and we've actually now renamed the suburb to Ponson Bali. It has a nice ring to it. In November 2021, about 6 months after we opened, Aucklanders voted our grilled fish as one of the top 100 iconic eats in Auckland. This was pride like no other, and our staff felt it too. The grilled fish is a staple Balinese dish. It's originating from an old fishing village in Jimbaran. And tourists flock to Jimbaran to eat this dish, and it's cemented itself as an iconic dish in Bali. And now it's an iconic dish in Auckland. As a niche culture trying to make its mark in a foreign land, this was pretty huge for us. We feel like we've not just been fully accepted, but celebrated as well. Suddenly, we didn't feel like we were the unknown minority, but a culture that was worthy of the center stage. In 2021, we wanted to move Java to a new location, bigger, better, and in the eclectic nighttime hub that was our very own K Road. So we found this space. Some of you might know this place on 322 K Road, and some of you might pretend that you don't know this place. This time we didn't have the budget for an architect, so I had to wear a new hat and self-teach myself how to use 3D design software. This was where my generalist skills came into play again. Transforming an ex-strip club into a wholesome Southeast Asian family restaurant wasn't easy, but I got it done, I think. In April 2022, we opened Java 2.0. From a 20-seater restaurant to now a 60-seater venue. Java was now BYO as well, and before long, K Road accepted us as the new kids on the block. The food we served was traditional Javanese food, where my family came from. And for it to be accepted by the people of Auckland was next level pride. This was what my grandma would cook for us when we were growing up. And now the cool kids of K Road were eating it too. So it's pretty surreal. Of course, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. When we first got our first 1-star review, the house was on fire. Average tasting food, pretty pricey. Service was better at Macca's. To be fair, there are some really lovely people working at Macca's, so I wasn't even hurt by that comment. But to say our food was average, this was the food of our people, and we took great pride in staying true to our flavors. Also, we weren't that expensive. We were operating on really tight margins. But this comment hit hard because people expected Indonesian food to be cheap. And this was the perception that we needed to change. So we kept going. We don't worry about petty comments anymore, because whatever you do, whatever you create and produce in this world, not everyone's going to like it, and that's okay too. The hospital world is rough. We operate on super tight margins, like I said. The hours are long, and there's so freaking much to do. I found that it was important to find the right partners, the people with the same vision as you, going the same direction with the same principles. We're lucky to have people who are specialists in their roles. Bobby, my husband, is our brand and marketing strategist, as well as in-house designer, immaculately capturing our roots and elevating it to the global stage. Zemi is our kitchen operations all-rounder, making sure all the nuts, bolts, and humans are all in the right places and running efficiently. Yanti is our supply chain and logistics superstar. She looks after our end-to-end procurement, distribution, and inventory management. And me, I'm the one who takes the blame if shit hits the fan. You definitely have to have someone like that in your team. We're now in our 3rd year of Bali Nights and our 5th year of Java. We're not what you call successful yet. Our road is still long, but for me, there's nothing else I'd rather do. And to get here, to be confident in where I am at the moment, doing what I love, I did have to go through my 15-year-long journey of working for someone else before I had the guts to work for myself. I learned to enjoy my journey. It's my own, and it led me to where I was meant to be. I learned not to compare my journey to others and trust that my path has led me to where I needed to be eventually. I feel like our niche culture is slowly starting to be accepted in this country, and I'm proud to say that we might have had a hand in it. So thank you so much for having me today. Do follow us, help a small business out, and follow all our Instagram pages. If you have a hankering for Indonesian food, let me know and I'll sort you out. Thank you.